Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of Magical Monday Musing, our week being March 23rd of 2015. So how is everyone doing? How did you all do with Bear last week and working with the Pentacle and the Stone suit again and our Queens? I hope that you were able to really settle in with them and receive some nourishment and an aspect of the card and the archetypes were not only of having the opportunity to nourish self with Bear. I always think of Bear as a nourishing totem or ally, but also to give that nourishment to others, to within your community, your family, whatever your circle of influence is, and ways that we can uphold and help others on their path work, their journey work. So as always, I love hearing from you and your stories about how these cards really come alive in your lives and how they can be instructive and companions and friends and waypointers for you. You know, that's the thing that's just so amazing about these cards is how uncanny they are and how they, just by the virtue of being able to choose every week collectively for us, how somehow all of your presences are available to me when I choose the card, and Spirit just seems to be able to guide us to exactly what we need to help us with the week and really take, what could be adverse or challenging circumstances or places where we might get forgetful or where we lose touch or sight with the core of ourselves. We can, these cards can serve as reminders for us and to, jog us back onto that path that we ultimately know will serve us best and that will help us to sit in that seat of power, throughout the days, that spiritual aspect of us being at the forefront and the leader that takes us into experiences. So, we're aware with our eyes open and our hearts able to make use of experiences in ways that are transcendent and useful and that can really shift us into deeper gears than we might have been accustomed to or that we might have chosen, if not for them to sort of be that initiating force for us. So I just am absolutely thrilled and tickled to get your weekly feedback and hear about all the ways the cards are really helping you. And even for those of you, I also appreciate the comments about maybe being new to this type of spiritual practice or new to working with tarot or some of the archetypes, and how each week a little bit more you're willing to sit and dig in and being okay with maybe not understanding everything, being okay with needing to root down and kind of get into your place of not knowing in order to have things revealed to you. So that's a wonderful thing to be able to know about yourself and be able to welcome the practice to enlarge your scope of understanding and personal growth. So congratulations to all of you that are doing this work together as part of the Circle Magica community. So this week we are going to be working with a suit we haven't worked with in a while. And some of us are going to have some phenomenal choices in our work this week. For some of us, it can have the potential to be truly life-altering. For those of you that are deciding that it will be so. So there's a tremendous wave of energy available to us through the archetypes and the numerical number that we're going to work with too. So what I'd like to do is invite you to do our meditation, our invocation, setting our sacred space, and then we'll plunge into the intuitive readings. I'll give you a couple of highlights from the books, and then we'll plunge into the reading so we can really see how these beings want to work with us this week. So as always, I invite you to bring yourself into your physical comfort, whether that is a reclining or a sitting position. with your eyes closed, if that feels right. Breathing deeply and naturally, taking a round of 3 breaths in and out at your own pace. Just allowing yourself to arrive in this moment. Nowhere else that you need to go and nothing else you need to do. You have created a container for yourself to be in the space of this video for the time that we take together to open yourself to deeper spiritual growth and possibility in your personal life and on your path. So appreciate this time that you're giving yourself to go inward and to receive teachings and wisdom from not only the tarot, but the archetypes, from the energies that we all represent collectively, and from the messages that Spirit will give through me to you today. Centering and relaxing into this place of knowingness that only what is for your highest good will come forward today. Only that which will really serve you. Sometimes our service that we receive can promote and stimulate a desire for challenging personal growth. That's not something that we would be wise to avoid or to decline. We may have our own timing in how we get to doing the work. We all have our own divine timing, but to invite in the challenges as well as the joys into your experience for what they can offer you. So let's ask to receive the blessings of the earth now. Let's ask also to receive the blessings and the presence of the sky and stars, the luminaries in the realms of light, the angelic realms, calling in our ancestors and loved ones in spirit, those that wish to contribute in a positive way. Calling in our personal allies and spirit teachers, guardians. Calling in the lower, middle, and upper world energies to support us today. And of course, inviting in the 4 elements and directions: earth and the direction of north, east and air, the direction of west and the element of water, and south and fire. I'm realizing I did my directions a little differently than normal, but everybody has been called in and is present and welcome. Calling on our own deep wisdom to guide the understanding, the comprehension, and the integration of what comes for us today. That we may let it settle into our bones and become part of us, and that it can serve as a wisdom base for us this week. Taking a moment to set your personal intentions for what it is that you would like to draw to you or release and let go. That this time would be what we each need it to be. That we would be upheld in the light. And so mote it be. So as you bring yourself back into this moment, into this space, and we continue on our journey this week with Magical Monday Musing, we are going to be, as I said, working with a suit we haven't worked with in a while. This week we chose wands. So just a little background on them before we get into the specifics. So wands generally represent the intuitive or experiential side of us. And so we're going to be working with those elements and aspects of ourselves. Each of the suits has a set of characteristics that represent the sort of psyche or the patterns that are laid out by each card. Let's see if there's anything I have the Spiritual Tarot book here just to see if there's anything else I want to pull out about that. The wands are interested in expanding their own awareness and that of others. Their experiences show us how to live for the joy of living. It can also have links with, we're looking at the Jungian aspect now, Jung, Carl Jung, and he made a connection with the wands to the spiritual element of fire, which is associated with the alchemical stage of the, I think it's called libido, the cooking phase of the transforming raw material into the perfected self. So we are shown experiences and struggles that test our ability to trust and communicate with our higher self. So these are some of the themes that you'll be encountering with wands in particular. And so this week we have chosen in the Wildwood Tarot, the card is the Nine of Bows and Respect. And the face card is this gnarly dude who I actually haven't really done much work with at all. The Wild Man, or in ancient medieval times, Middle Ages, as primarily 12th century. There were a number of depictions of him in tapestries, even in some of the churches and temples of that time. You might see the Wild Man, or he was also called the Woodhose, or the Woodwoes, or the Wadwoes. So he is a pretty fierce character. And we'll be talking about him in more detail, but he is the Nine of Bows and Respect. And the corresponding card in the Rider-Waite Tarot is the Nine of Wands. So we're going to be working again with similar energies, but when you see these cards, you'll see how very different they appear energetically, which is part of why I love doing this contrasting work with you, because we get two very strong messages from each wisdom source that we can work with and synergize, which is really, really beneficial to our work spiritually. So a couple things about the nines themselves, because every number, in addition to the card itself, has its own sort of psyche, if you will, or has its own imprint, energetic imprint for us to settle into, for us to sort of hunker down into and have access to for the week. And again, that builds your personal body of wisdom, because then you have had personal experience for a week straight with a particular number within a particular suit. So you see, as you meet with us collectively here every week, you just feed yourself more and more and more. So it all builds one week on the next to create not only this rhythm of personal guidance, but collective guidance as we as Circle Magica sit together, but you're also getting this whole personal relationship through your journaling, through your meditating, through paying attention to the signs and omens each week with the cards and with this whole system of divination, of healing, of it's a map of the human psyche is what the tarot is. And so you get to plug into that and get to know yourself through these beings each week and how they present and how they mentor and guide you and bring up out of you that which you are, to be held in the light for a week and to get to know and work with through the filter of that. So it's a pretty amazing thing we're doing here. Pat yourself on the back for showing up every week and giving yourself this concentrated effort of being with what comes to you spiritually and growing from it. So the nines, the nines are presenting and represent the end of a cycle of completion, of learning, of growing. And so the question that the nines can ask us is, have I learned enough from my 1 through 8? Because every card that you go through in the cycle of the tarot, or even just numerology, each is one that builds on the next to bring you up to this idea of, perfection, like the alchemical sense of the philosopher's stone, or that great perfection. And with the numerology, we're approaching the completion of a cycle and the initiation of a new one with the nines. And so in the nines, you want to ask yourself, is there anything else I need to learn? Is there anything else I need to resolve? Or is there another nugget, or is there another gift within this I can give myself before I move into another phase of my journey? It does highlight, because we're working with the wands, we're working with the intuitive or the subjective or the psyche. It relates to understanding you're not going to find your answers through the material world or through personal achievement, but you're going to need to shift your focus more inward. So a development of self with a capital S is what's being sought after through this number and through this suit. The other thing which is interesting is that with the 9, in general terms, it can mean that you have created a sense of success because you are approaching the end of that natural cycle of the 0 or the 1 through the 8, and coming up into the 9 represents a closure, a completion, an ending, but also a chance to review. So think of that as you're working with these cards this week. The Wildwood, the 9 of Bows and Respect, and the Rider-Waite, the 9 of Wands. And as I say, you will see very distinct energies between the two visuals of the card. And then what you can do is just get yourself into meditation, do some journaling. Another idea might be that you do a little sketching or a little art with the cards. It might be fun to explore some new creative ways to get to know the cards. So some of you might be inclined in your journaling to create some you can go online and make a copy of, just look up a Rider-Waite, maybe the Wildwood too, tarot cards. You could look up this and get a visual of it, and you could print it out and cut it out and glue stick it right into your journal if you wanted to, as one possibility. If you have the Wildwood Tarot, which of course, or the Rider-Waite, you can get those, at your local metaphysical or perhaps bookstore. I'm sure if you have a Barnes and Noble or any of the more chain-oriented booksellers, you could ask for them to order you one if they don't carry it, because the Rider-Waite you could find pretty much everywhere, but not the Wildwood. The Wildwood is a little more unique in that way, so it's not typically stocked in all the stores. Our local Barnes & Noble usually does have a copy, and or of course, if you want to go the Amazon.com or what have you, there's different places where you could order it and begin to really get that tangible of having the cards around you and working with them beyond what we do here. So you could think about that. But so as we move into switching gears and looking at some personal messages this week, so the thing is you all have been working together collectively as part of the Circle Magica community for a while now, doing these musings. And what we're coming into is a collective opportunity to look at making a giant leap forward, like a big, Simon says, take one giant step forward. A number of us are being offered that, but it is not going to come without doing that honest review. Like, think about the Wildwood Tarot card. and that fierce figure. He is a gatekeeper, and respect is the word that we're being given to work with in conjunction with his very fierce energy. And what he represents as the gatekeeper for us is like basically you're not going to get to go forward until you finalize and complete this chapter of your life. So some of you, I really do feel like this is about your personal inner journey. It is about this has a tendency with both of the cards to have to do with pieces from the past where we have held a particular viewpoint that wants to be shifted, updated, resolved. For some of you, and including myself, this has to do with going all the way back to childhood. Things that have been solidified within our understanding of self have to do with things we received as children. That, how I explain it in my private spirit work sessions, and this is not only shamanic, this is a very well-established way of looking at how we develop and mature or not. So it's as if something, a trauma, situation, teaching, pattern was presented to us, taken in, became a reality for us at that time. And it's as if there's a part of us that, an aspect of that child nature that is frozen by this because it was something that was held on to as a painful truth or teaching. And so, as we maturate as adults and as we begin to develop our brain centers and various aspects of understanding, as we develop through our natural, not only brain, but just as human beings and maturate, we have this piece that has not. And so it is, I did a post not too long ago, one of my field notes from the path about the wounded healer written in the stars back when we were working with the star. And I talked about how, for me, the wounded healer was one of the archetypes that I was born into through my stars, and how it's played out in my life, and how first of all, many of you are also working with that archetype. We know, I've talked with a number of you, and we also have the experience of, as sensitives, as those that walk between the worlds, as those that are highly intuitive or right-brained or empathetic or psychic, we very naturally can experience this archetype. So anyway, we receive the healing and the scar that goes along with that, and it becomes this foundational point of strength going forward and of learning. And I think it's the spiritual tarot, they even talk about, or maybe it's the Wildwood, they talk about this piece about what the wound and the healing of the wound does for us on our journey. And it can be something that in order for us to move forward, this wild man that we're experiencing in the Wildwood Tarot this week is a gatekeeper. So it's like you do not pass until you claim this healing for yourself. So know that, again, as we work with the spiral, things are repeatedly presented to us to help us to gain what we are seeking out of it. And whenever there's a trauma or whenever there's a wound, there's something that's not understood. And there is a healing that needs to come to us. And it's not for any of us to say, it's for our own process of discovery as individuals to find the truth, because the wands are about, remember, truth and experience. And so you're going to be asked, some of you, who your number is up this week. So wanting to have completion or wanting to get the final piece of this so that you can move on. This does tend to relate to past experience, like I said, either childhood or a wound of some kind that those of you that are wanting to do this work will be asked to look at. So there's lots of ways that you can do it. You can literally just ask for these archetypes to help you to find the ways to get to that healing for yourself. But it's oftentimes requires some real honest assessment of maybe the idea or the wounding and what the voice or the story of that wounding was versus what's really going to get you to the healing, which may be needing to make amends. There may be forgiveness involved of self or people that, or situations that promoted this experience for you. So you can see that this can be a really deep week for those of you that are willing to do it. I know for myself, I know exactly the topic that needs to be addressed with this, and it's a really ancient one that blindsided me not too long ago. It's way too raw to be going into too much detail right now, and I don't know that I'll ever be in a position where I'll share this particular work publicly more than just to say that I know for me, the work is always spiritually based, and it will be involving shamanic journey to that part that is wounded, and also working with these archetypes, plus any other power teachers or spirit allies that can help me. It's going to be involving drumming. It's going to be involving some magical work, some journal work. And beyond that, I don't know. We'll see what is presented to me as tools. So I just want to say to you that, our life is a process. It's not a point A to a point B. So please don't beat up on yourself or feel guilty or shame or feel, like I should be through this or any of that. Get rid of all of that, because none of that applies to your personal process work. Just be with what is coming up. And ask for the guidance and what you need to do with it, so that you can move, so the gatekeeper will open the door and say, yes, now is time for you. You have completed this aspect of the journey. You've gotten the insight you need. And, wounds, scar tissue and all, you can now move forward and be initiated into the next phase of your journey. So for some of you, that's going to really play out in strong ways. Some of you, now I'm tuning in specifically to some of you in terms of how a wound that you've been carrying for a long time. It's really interesting how this one wound will play out in all areas of your life. So let's just say it was a childhood wound. Say it was say a parent, for example, I'm just going to go with what I'm getting, is one that was responsible for belittling you, undermining your confidence, telling you don't measure up, that you'll never be good enough, that really pulling out from underneath you your sense of being able to trust yourself or feel that you could have confidence as you go out into the world and explore different things. I feel like some of you got cut down in your dream state about things when you would imagine or have dreams or enthusiasm about something or what you wanted to do, and that you got cut down by a parent saying, sort of get with it, or, dreams don't get you anywhere, or you can't do that. And so for some of us, that is going to be coming up this week, because it's played out in your work scenario, and how you've limited yourself by that message being one that you've made your own now. And so that voice of the parent lives really strong in you about why you're not getting ahead, and why you keep running into roadblocks, and why it's a dead end, and why it feels like, I'm the one that gets overlooked for raises or promotions, or I'm the one that's like stuck in this box and I can't seem to get out. So for some of you, you're going to be able to, like a thread, trace back to childhood the messages that you got that are still really active in your psyche and that you've taken on, and that you're at a point now of, if you have the courage to really believe that this is really just a teaching that really it doesn't even belong to you, that you can begin to separate out, where you are and where that message has been part of you but is not your reality. It doesn't have to be your reality. So For those of you that are resonating with that, I would suggest going in meditation with these teachers this week and asking for them to help you to be able to disengage from those teachings. Like, the image I'm getting is as though you're tearing a piece of fabric, tearing that piece of fabric. And so you're creating a rift or a separation in the continuity of that energy. And so let's just completely rip it, shred it if you want to. You're going to have your own experience about what process feels right to you. I'm just offering a suggestion to really get a sense of separation from that. And of course, you're going to need to do some personal claiming around that, and really realizing that maybe you're going to get angry about that. Maybe you're going to need to do some strong physical movements or some breathing around the releasing of that. And maybe some of the anger is about regret or things that you feel you missed out on because, it could appear as self-blame or, being hard on yourself. But let all of that come up and let it be looked at. There's nothing wrong. We're not going to make anything wrong. Whatever you need to feel, whatever thoughts you're having, those are yours. We invite them in for tea, as I say, because you got to acknowledge all of the shadow pieces and get real about this so that you can know what's in there, so you have an understanding of it. That's what you're after, is the understanding. The understanding then and the shifting of perspective is what's going to help you to move into that phase of completion, of resolution, of gaining what it is that your soul is seeking this experience for, that sense of unification with, yourself with the capital S, as opposed to being caught in that frozen suspension of that child's feeling and thinking about the situation that has carried and sort of monopolized, in a way, your experiences to current date. So you have an opportunity to really make a huge shift this week. For those of you that are experiencing that feeling of being stuck at work, feeling like you're missing out, I'm trying to give you some of the cues Spirit is giving me about how it might feel for you. Feeling how, or you're being left behind, overlooked, any of those kind of feelings. So in essence, it's respect for the process that the wild man is bringing to our attention, to have respect for all pieces of it, including those that did the wounding. So there's a respect in terms of the value of what's available to you this week. That's where we want to take a look. So respecting yourself, respecting the scenario, the situation, the teaching, so that it can provide you with the completion of this chapter. Now, know you may be getting this initiation this week, but you may not be able to do all of that big work in a week. So you know that this force is available to you. You can keep working that for as long as it needs to, for it to be a completed chapter in your life. But some of us are going to get that really strong initiation this week. So, welcome that if you feel that it's appropriate for you and you're willing to take that on to begin working with. Because we are in new moon energy now. So we're in that waxing phase of the moon. We're in that phase of energy building to support us. So you also can be using that to benefit you as well. Call on the lady and ask her to assist you as well. Okay, let's see what else wants to come through about this, the Nine of Wands with the Rider Waite and the Nine of Bows, respect with the Wildwood Tarot. So for some of you, I feel like there could be interactions with siblings too, and some maybe conversations that have needed to take place, but have maybe we've been withholding or with maybe waiting for the right time, or just not feeling like strong enough to do the work. So this can be a lot of interrelationship work this week. So some of you, it feels like it's going to take maybe a turn with siblings, that there needs to be some truth telling as well. Clearing the air, like I'm seeing an image of like smoke and like a wind coming coming through to clear the air. And the thing to remember is that to go in with a neutral space, not having an agenda of needing to win or be right, will be really helpful. But to come more from a position of knowing where you stand in it, and you might feel that you are justified or you have a perspective that you're not willing to be negotiated out of or placate or anything like that. It's a shift of empowerment for you, of speaking, not needing to even be heard, which might sound a lot kind of weird, but it is about you receiving yourself, having respect for yourself, having respect for the situation, but not needing to kowtow, to lay down, to roll over, but just being strong in yourself, and also being truly open to the other person's perspective in a neutral way without needing to change it or to one-up it or to, like I said, be right. But this can allow the opportunity for the scenario to be different than it was before. I'm not saying necessarily with some of you this is even going to mean a resolving. I think some of these things are not necessarily about resolving, but it's about the contact and the experience, because some of them, it's just there are perspectives that in the end it's not about agreeing so much as it is the respect piece. So see if you can feel into what I mean by that, and see what work you can do, because you're doing it for you. You're doing it for your soul growth and the opportunity. We can't always mend things in family. So it's important to acknowledge that. But we can come to places where we know that and can still move forward in a way. So I want to put that out to some of you this week as well. Okay, let's see what else. Okay, so some of you, this word respect is really going to trigger you, right? As soon as you heard the respect, you're probably like, oh, here we go. Self-respect is going to be heightened for some of you this week. And it's like you're not going to let yourself forget the wild man. Your inner wild man or woman is not going to let you pass without you coming to terms with you and how you feel about yourself in a particular way. I'm getting a sense of, for those of you that are really hard on yourself when you make mistakes, we're not seeing them as learning experiences. Mistake, the core meaning of mistake is just like sin, to miss the mark, So you keep working at it. But some of us, again, because of those woundings about what it meant to make a mistake or to be wrong or to do something that displeased somebody, a lot of us, especially the wounded healers or the sensitives, take that as mortal. It's a mortal wound, to not be perfect, because that could threaten us with rejection, loss of love. Not pleasing someone is something that can be hugely devastating for folks that come from that type of background, who have had those experiences about what it means to make a mistake, can be extremely threatening and frightening. So some of you are going to be working to reshape that, to understand that self-respect, understanding yourself in a way that will allow you to have a heightened relationship with self and respect. So some of you are going to be given scenarios this week that are going to bring you into needing to address that so you can move forward. So the self-respect piece then is going to be a door opener for you into some pleasant experiences and interactions with other human beings, but primarily with how you hold yourself. And that in itself will be so gratifying that you then start to shift your vibration. And then that, of course, will set in motion and get the wheels going, so that the energy that you radiate affects everything differently once you make that inner alignment for yourself. So that's something to look forward to, something that those of you that have that on your plate this week have been really working with in that spiral fashion that we talk about, that it's come around you and around you and around you. And so you could grab that brass ring this week and really make like that final integration to just, then that's a place that you sit in. You know, that's an orientation that you have, and that when you're challenged in the future with it, that's a go-to place for you. Like, that's no longer negotiable. You won't negotiate your self-respect ever again. So you see, there can be times when you get the challenge enough that there is that critical point where it then just becomes assimilated and you go forward, and it's not even like you think about it. It doesn't evoke that reaction within you, in your body, in your psyche. It's just, you go from that place. So some of you are going to have the exciting experience of that level of integration. So that feels like everything. It's like the tap just got shut off. So that feels like everything that Spirit wants to share with us. Quite a lot, quite a juicy week ahead of us for those that, want to strap on those cowboy boots and ride in that rodeo. And I hope that you all will, because it's definitely a meaty, and there's a tremendous amount of depth and character building available to us this week. And I just invite you, to get your lasso swinging and get out there and do what you feel like you can do. So journaling, meditating, our usual go-to skills, shamanic journeying, if you feel inclined to do that. If you don't know how to do it, I think what I'm going to be doing soon is putting something up on the website and having the steps, and maybe I'll do a little online tutorial, maybe like a self-study tutorial for those of you, because I talk about it so much and I know not everybody has done it yet, but it's a huge tool for you, and everybody should know how to do it and have access to it, because it's a phenomenal and useful skill. So I've got a couple of things in the chute for you guys coming up in the next little while to look for. So until next week, I want to remind you that if you're not subscribing yet, you can, just by going to circlemagica.com/subscribe, and that you can also catch up with us on my Facebook page, which is Deb D'Onofrio. So I hope that it is a week that you're really working with the wands and working with the bows and going for your journey. And I'll look forward to seeing you for our next issue of Magical Monday Musing next week. And until then, I hope you have a magical and powerful one. Blessed be.